welcome to another episode of One Miss Pod. I'm your host, Zack Long. This week, Kelly Warner is all gone again, so I am joined by the wonderful Brett the Wise. How you doing, Brett?
I'm doing okay. I'm very, very glad to be welcomed outside of the asylum where I'm being kept. So thank you for allowing me on your humble little podcast, sir. It's going to be a good time, I hope.
Well, you know, the asylum pays a good subsidy to get you some one-on-one time, so I couldn't say no.
Yeah, they did sign that agreement saying they had to culture us sometime.
Yes, and so they decided to make you watch Wicked City because nothing screams culture more than rape? Question mark?
Yeah, we'll get into that, I suppose.
So, in these episodes where I've been flying with a guest, I like to ask, what is your relationship with Japanese horror?
My relationship with Japanese horror. Well, I think it all started back at summer camp, as it always does, where basically back about like 12 years ago, I worked at a summer camp for Boy Scouts, and I was introduced to a lot of weird shit back then. I was introduced to Master the Flying Guillotine, the One-Armed Boxer. Vampire Hunter D ended up on the VCR one night, and
the original or Bloodlust?
The OG, the 80s OVA.
Okay, I know the guy that did this one also did Bloodlust.
And like right after that, I kept in touch with one of my companions there, and he and I would exchange movie recommendations. And since I was such a neophyte in the ways of movie watching, he would just send me all sorts of weird stuff. And eventually, I got onto like the Takashi Miike train. I saw 13 Assassins, which is horror adjacent. I would think.
When you get to that woman who is that poor woman who's just been dismembered and kept alive. Yes, exactly. Oh my god, that's a good. Wow, the signs were always there to begin with.
Yeah. Wow, the guy who made Audition did make this movie. Yeah, and then a lot of my friends were deep into like the psychological horror, survival horror video game genre, so I got a lot of Japanese like horror from that angle as well. And finally, in 2013, I discovered our Lord and Savior Godzilla, who is technically a horror icon. So I have basically due to a combination of keeping an eye out for Takashi Miike movies and anything else, since I am a slut for movie recommendations on the social media, I've pretty much watched anything anyone will recommend to me, be they spiritual sequels to Rikio, or just that one time Marvel made an anime movie about Dracula. So,
I love that movie.
Yeah, I own it on DVD along with the Frankenstein they apparently made right around the same time. I love that one
as well.
I need to catch up with the Frankenstein, but I showed the Dracula to an anime buddy of mine. He was just dumbstruck. Like, what the hell is this? I'm like, oh my god, this is great.
I absolutely love those, and I'm going to convince Kelly to do a double feature of them for an episode.
Oh yeah, I will join you if you want to talk Tomb of Dracula and the Monster of Frankenstein. I will again whore myself out to say, yeah, I will come back to chat more anime crap. But well, it's not crap. It's good. I don't know if it was meant to be good, but it is good.
Crap. It's good crap.
But yeah, I'm a huge fan of Japanese just culture in general. I don't think I'm an otaku, but if I hear something through the grapevine about, hey, this anime movie's coming out and that's really gorgeous animation, I'm like, well, I got to add it to the list. So I'm watching a lot of Shinkai, a lot of Yuasa. And and that's what brought me to you today, because you randomly reached out to me because you're desperate and said, let's talk about a Japanese horror movie. And I'm like, cool, does anime count?
Well, I, of course, said yes, because I actually was an otaku for many years. I even ran the anime club in high school. which we got in trouble because I decided, like, oh, Japanese movies, those are anime adjacent. Let's show Battle Royale at lunchtime.
I mean,
they didn't like that. So, the students liked it, not the staff. It's like, I wonder why.
That is not considered a Japanese horror movie, apparently. What the hell?
Which one? Battle Royale?
I'm just looking at the 43 horror films from Japan I've watched on Letterboxd, and it does not consider Battle Royale one of them. I'm like, what is this weirdness? Come on!
Battle Royale is fantastic, and it got me to read the book, which I quite enjoyed. And I highly recommend. Actually,
that was my entryway into Japanese horror was Battle Royale, because that's what we watched one weekend at summer camp. That was like, I would consider the true gateway drug, because we made like an MST3K like riff along out of it, where it would say like 13 left. We'd be like, 13 left! 13 left! We just cheer along like soccer fans. I should have recorded it, because that was a hell of like a riffing session we had over Battle Royale, and it eventually told me I should. When they, I believe it was Anchor Bay or someone released a double feature set of it, I picked it up immediately from the local bookstore. So, yeah, the Battle Royale was my gateway drug into Japanese horror, and then I eventually sought out Ringu and all that stuff.
We haven't actually covered Ringu yet on the show, which is surprising considering that we reference it in our opening theme, I guess, ? Our opening noise.
Yeah. There's plenty of Japanese horror to talk about. You will get to it one day.
Oh, absolutely. Funny enough, though, you picked this one, Wicked City. When Wicked City is by Yoshiaki Kawajiri, who is one of my all-time favorite anime directors, and it's of my favorite era. I love the late 80s to late 90s animation. It's so beautiful. It's so like, it's very rough around the edges.
That post Akira boom.
Yes, exactly. Now,
when they threw money at every freaking project.
Absolutely, but also, let's be real, Akira is one of the most beautiful movies ever made. Like, there's a reason why people threw money at stuff at anime after it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Kawajiri is very talented. I have only seen their additions to the Animatrix and Ninja Scroll, but I will stand by Ninja Scroll as the R-rated Kubo and the Two Strings that the world needs.
Oh, interesting. That's gonna get me out to watch Kubo, I guess.
Oh shit! They also made Goku Midnight Eye, which was on my anime challenge this year. So
I love Goku Midnight Eye.
There's a lot of crossover between that and Wicked City in terms of aesthetic.
Yeah, so Wicked City and Demon City Shinjuku. He's did A Wind Named Amnesia, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. He was even in the weird Highlander one from the early or mid 2000s. He did Biohunter, which I highly recommend if you were a fan of like Cyber City Oedo or Goku. Like, he's got a lot of weird stories. Unfortunately, we picked his rapiest. And I say rapiest because you've seen Ninja Scroll, so you know even his best film is pretty rapey at times.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the themes that I've picked up on between his films. Also, I feel like he must have had like a kind of a pervy grandfather who was really short and treated him like shit.
Yeah, this yeah, we can just sidewind right into the Wicked City. Yeah, there's a lot of fetish fuel in this movie.
Holy shit. Oh, like, okay, the movie starts out and the dude picks up a girl at the bar and it's like, okay, they go home and she immediately, just barely off screen, pulls his cock out and starts blowing him. We cut into sex and then out of nowhere, like, her vagina becomes a gaping mouth, then she becomes a spider, and later that's where she spins her web from. But last I knew, spiders, A, did not spin their webs from their mouth, and B, did not have teeth around their assholes. So,
yeah, there's a lot of...
had to make that up.
It's a very liberal anatomy interpretation of a Spider-Woman, so...
Which also, speaking of the Dracula and the Frankenstein movie, I can't wait for Marvel to make that adaptation of Spider-Woman.
But yeah, we could... Yeah,
I just picture Spider-Woman like going through New York looking like that. Broad daylight.
Well, the Spider-Verse is open, so the horror interpretations of the Spiderlings are also out up in the air. So who knows? Spider-Verse 2, get on it.
I'm still waiting for Marvel to call me back though, so we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, but Wicked City. Before we get into the actual meat of it, let's talk about how this is discount Suspiria, in that there are like 4 colors they have.
Oh, you know what? I would put it at 2. I would put it at blue and red.
Well, they have blue, red, black, and white. Those are the 4 things they get to play with.
That when we get to the final fight on the rooftop, I literally was looking at it just going, well, blue shot, red shot, blue shot, red shot. Like
blue with white streaks.
Oh, because you got to have that electricity in there.
Yeah.
Now, this is also though, like, it is Suspiria Light. It's also Ninja Scroll Light, which Ninja Scroll came after this. This was actually Kawajiri's first. It was the first film that he was the solo director on.
I would say it's Cyberpunk Scroll.
Cyberpunk Scroll is pretty good. Interestingly, though, this is actually based on a series of novels by Hideyuki Kikuchi. I probably got that wrong. He did the Blackguard series, which is made up of Wicked City, Wicked City 2, Wicked City 3, The Misfortunate Mad Demon, Wicked City New York, Wicked City, there's my Spider-Girl sequel, Wicked City Devil Beast Child, Wicked City Lantern Demon, The Devil King's Eyes, Yumishiki, and Black Angel. So there's a 10 book series that this is only the first adaptation from.
Yeah.
Well, it's the only adaptation, but it's only the first book that's adapted.
Well, there technically are 2 adaptations.
Oh, what's the second one that I'm missing there?
Hong Kong made a live-action adaptation in 92.
Did they? Oh, yeah. I have not... Okay, well, I need to find that.
With the definite article, The Wicked City.
Oh, that says it then. That's obviously the real one, where we watched the wrong movie. I guess it's podcast over. But the guy that wrote the original book, he also wrote the 7-book series for the Demon City Shinjuku, which Kawajiri had brought to life, and he wrote the Vampire Hunter D series, and Kawajiri did Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. So there's a tight fusion of these two together, so it's not really a surprise that Kawajiri's Ninja Scroll has so much of the tone of these other films, because he got pretty much trained directly with this writer.
Well, yeah, and he worked exclusively, it seems, with Studio Madhouse, which is arguably, besides Ghibli, like the most active and just constantly giving of animation studios in Japan.
Is it Madhouse that did Sword of the Stranger?
I think so.
Because that is by far my favorite film, or my favorite anime film. I also really they did Perfect Blue and Paprika.
Nope, Bones. Bones was Sword of the Stranger.
Bones did that. I wonder which one I'm confusing with them.
Well, I can look it up right now, thanks to this handy thing.
Redline. They did Redline.
Yep. Redline.
Redline doesn't fit into this show, but Redline is worth checking out. We've talked about it on the podcast in the past. I highly recommend that for a good time.
Oh yeah, a couple of my friends, we actually did an anime podcast back in June, and one of the things that got a major shout out was Hellsing Ultimate. So we got a lot of love. That. We got a lot of love for Studio Madhouse in my circle. But yeah, Hellsing Ultimate, if you want probably the ultimate ultra-violent vampire anime, Hellsing Ultimate is 10 episodes of what you need.
It's just what the doctor ordered.
Yep.
Wicked City has a very interesting premise to it. It sets up an interesting world, so much so that I think that it would be I think it would be particularly great in a series format rather than the OVA format we get.
Yeah, it's sort of Alien Nation crossed with Blade Runner.
That's a good way of putting it.
Because the plot through line is very reminiscent of the way the two Blade Runner movies went. Did you see 2049?
I've seen it once. I need to watch it again. I was just like so mesmerized by that movie visually that I barely remember the story.
Well, you'll probably remember like the big plot hook in that movie, like the big like center crux of it.
Oh yeah,
yeah, which is basically the end game of Wicked City. It's like we're going there. Oh yeah, this is some fanficky fetishy bullshit.
This whole movie is some fetishy bullshit. You mentioned that. I brought up the spider vagina. Let's also talk about the rape worm.
The tentacles. What about all the tentacles that's everywhere?
All the tentacles that are everywhere, which I know several women who I gotta recommend this to afterwards because that's their jam. But there's one particular tentacle where we have two characters and they have to protect the third character, and they get trapped in some like nether realm, and a weird little tiny parasite grows to be a huge rape worm, which I call it that because it not only does it force her its way down her throat, but it then backs up and goes in again and backs up and goes in again. It's like, am I watching a fucking hentai now? How is this uncensored on YouTube?
It reminds me of that time earlier this year when I watched Visitor Q for the first time. Like, I swear this isn't a porn. I swear.
I actually, somebody has requested to be the guest on the Visitor Q episode.
Ooh, have you seen it before?
Oh, definitely. It has. It is a very troublesome movie, but it has my favorite opening of any movie, where the dude just smacks the dude with a brick so he has brain damage and thinks they're friends.
Oh, well, that's the second scene. The opening is much worse.
Oh, but... okay, yes. The opening is much worse. Sorry, I did forget the order that those happened in.
Yeah, you forgot the opening text crawl. It said, "Have you ever done it with your father?"
I did. I remembered that. I remember that scene. I did not remember the text crawl. It is. Every now and then, I think about that actual opening scene, not the second one. I think about that actual opening scene, and I have to go, what the fuck was that from? Was that like a nightmare I dreamed up? And then I'm like, oh no, that was a nightmare that Mike dreamed up. Okay, it all makes sense.
But it's all about the family unit. But yeah, Wicked City. So
which is also all about the family unit.
Yeah, so we got the two cops who are protecting this old ass. He looks like a character from Ranma 1/2. The old shriveled dude.
He's just the same character in fucking Ninja Scroll. Like, he's the same dude in that, where you just have, like, the quote-unquote wise, though we don't realize that until the end of the movie, and you know what,
Because he's a pervert through like, the first, like, 7/8 of the film.
He's just he's not only a pervert, but he's like he's the guy that cuts you off on the fucking freeway and then flips you the bird. Like, he's that guy. And it's just like porno mags flying out the window of his car as he does it.
Yeah, and we have, I don't know, do we want to list in detail every single kink that appears in this movie? Because we got the Spider Woman, we got the Spider Woman, we got the
tentacles,
we got Lady Clayface.
Lady Clayface is my favorite. I actually really, really love Lady Clayface, where it's like, okay, you got, like, okay, the perverts come for tits. Like, that's why this scene is in the movie. But it goes just weird enough that I'm like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah, it's like that legendary caption of, my animation skills have given your breasts the consistency of pudding. It's like, this animator has never touched a boob in his life. Okay.
No, but actually, when you take into account, like, in this one, it's like, oh, like... It makes sense that it's the consistency of pudding. Like, they're not real boobs. I don't think that's her real form. So, I'll give that one a pass.
They really blue ball us on Makie. It's like, okay, what is her actual form? It's like, they like tell her like, oh, she is in the skin of a human. You're not used to this form yet. It's like, well, what is her true form? Are you going to show it to us? It's like, come on.
There was a moment. So when the parasite first, like, it runs up her sleeve, and she starts to freak out. And at first, I thought that she was like going into her true form because she was too powerful for it to hurt her. But it's like, oh, no, she's just about to get raped by a worm, and then she's about to get kidnapped to be gang raped by other people, and then she's going to then be gaslit to fall in love with our main character, who has no real... his personality is he's a badass, and I love some of his lines, but he's kind of just a wet towel, and she gets the entire... okay, so the spoilers. The whole point of this fucking movie is like, they're supposed to protect this small guy, but turns out the small guy has been tricking them to fall for each other so that they'll fucking have a baby. And so she just got gaslit into having a baby after part of his plan was to get her repeatedly gang raped. Like, you're not the tactician I want on my side, sir.
The Japanese OVA industry was a Wild West cesspool of sometimes you got some genuinely good and wholesome stuff, but most of the time you got a lot of perversion going along in this, because you got, I would arguably say Midnight Goku is like the slightly more lawful good version of Wicked City.
With the interdimensional dragon rockets, like, yeah, it decides to double down on like cool techno shit rather than rape.
Yeah, plus it's always better when you have Spike Spiegel, Stephen Blum as your lead VA. So it's like, oh hell yeah! And,
oh shit, I haven't watched it since I've caught up with
the two English dubs are Stephen Blum as Goku. I'm like, oh hell yeah!
Oh, that's wonderful. I do want to say, speaking on the OVA market, that I actually, like, part of me really still does love the sort of lawfulness of it, where it was just, or lawlessness of it, I should say, actually, where it was just like, you would go into a Blockbuster and you'd be like, I'm gonna rent this one, and your parents would go, all right, it's animation, it can't be that bad, and then you would watch it while they were asleep because you knew better.
Yes.
This one, if it just had I really, really like this movie. If it just took out, all it needs to do is take out the gang rape scene. I'm okay with the rest.
Yeah, this feels a bit like Kite in that the excessive stuff really isn't necessary. Although the plot through line sort of says, well, actually, it is kind of necessary. It's like, well, then the soft core is only necessary. Nothing else is. It's like this other fetishy bullshit is not necessary. Which, by the way, the love scene between this is basically the opening scene of Twilight of the Dark Master, or the
yes it is
or the denouement of Psychic Wars. So
God damn, we're getting nerdy on this one.
Look, I saw Psychic Wars for the animation this year, and I am mad about both those, both Twilight of the Dark Master and Psychic Wars, because both of those are equally terrible. Yes, El Goro, Twilight of the Dark Master is awful, and oh Jesus! But
Wicked City, if you take out the gang rape scene and you just you can take out the rape worm. The rape worm doesn't add much. Just have it be like a parasite attacking her. It doesn't need to be forcing its way in her. Like, is it like preparing her for his child? What the fuck is the point of it? There's not a point.
Also, down on the sewer level, how about that ultimate warrior demon they make, only for him to like, yes, the Death Star demon has no weaknesses whatsoever. You can shoot as much as you shoot him in the mouth. He's dead. It's like, what the hell? I'm so powerful. They build him like, oh man, he's all rocky. He can't be shattered by this bullet. And then it shoots him in the mouth, and then it ricochets inside. I'm like, wow, you guys did not think this through at all.
Which, though, they do a much better job of that with Ninja Scroll again. It's like even though the ideas in this, I assume, come from the novel, I can't say for sure. I haven't read it. Copies of it sell for about $300 for the English version, or about. I saw some as cheap one as cheap as $50, but it looked like ratty condition, so I'm not going to get a chance to read it. But
come on, pirates, get on it.
Yeah. Well, actually, maybe I will get a chance now that you say that. But it is like, does this come from that? Because he brought the idea of a stone guy who is super tough and unkillable over to Ninja Scroll. I wonder if Ninja Scroll has Kikuchi on it.
Although the one thing that Ninja Scroll reminds me, I had not seen Wicked City before I saw Ninja Scroll. However, I also claim that Ninja Scroll is the like X-rated Rurouni Kenshin.
X-rated, because I was gonna say Samurai X comes pretty close, doesn't it? With like that, just the sheer violence in that.
I haven't seen the movie. I've seen Trust and Betrayal, and I've seen the new Kyoto arc, as well as the 3 live-action movies.
I haven't seen the last, the 3 or that second arc, but back in the day, that was the hypest shit. That was the one that you could rent from Blockbuster. Your dad could be in the room, not your mom, but your dad could be in the room and be fucking pumping his fist along with like Kenshin just fucking up everyone.
Yeah, and it turns out Kenshin came out the year after Ninja Scroll, so that the manga started in 94, while Ninja Scroll came out in either 92 or 93, so it could be argued that it took some influence from Ninja Scroll, as well as Kurosawa in general.
It probably did. I would also put some influence on both Ninja Scroll and on Kenshin there, from Lone Wolf and Cub as well.
Yeah,
and not so much the movies as much as the manga. Like the manga for that is so fucking violent.
Mm-hmm.
Also, which is the case where like the movies seem to have added a bit more eroticism to the ones they covered. But then you go and you look at Lady Snowblood and you read the manga for that. Well, that was the magazine that one was shown in was basically a porn magazine. So you have like an arc of Lady Snowblood where like the whole thing is the guy's dick is so big that women can't take it, and it's like, oh cool, this sucks. And then you watch Lady Snowblood, the actual movie. It's like, oh, this is beautiful and wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I kind of expect the exploitation live actions to be where it's like, oh, this is where you stuck in all the bullshit.
Yeah, I also couldn't find a copy of the novel to check and see, like, again, you and I were on the same boat, like, okay, was all this perversion in the novel, or was this entirely Yoshiaki's bringing into it?
Now, I would have probably a couple weeks ago, I would have just assumed that it was in the novel, but this is a Madhouse production, and I looked at Perfect Blue recently, which on the site Scriptophobic, there's a wonderful piece by Rachel Bolton about that film. And they did, in 2017, they released new translations of it. It's the 2 books. One is some short stories set by the same author, but the other one is just Perfect Blue. So I pick up Perfect Blue, ready to dive into this deep psychological look at stardom, and none of that is in there. Perfect Blue, the book, is entirely the story of the stalker from Perfect Blue going after the idol, and it builds up like he basically slut shames characters, and that idolizes innocence while still jerking off to it, and it builds up to him cutting his face off to try to skin the idol and put her skin on him so that it would be her on the outside but his innocence on the inside. And none of the shit that Satoshi Kon or in Satoshi Kon's film, we did find out that it was a different. He worked with a screenwriter. He did not write on that.
Satoshi, the third Cohen brother. I'm just poking fun at your pronunciation. Like, not sure if he's a Cohen, but it would be hilarious if you turned out to be Jewish.
That would. What if? Imagine we just like the next movie. They're like, all right, we got the third brother, and that he's been overseas for a while.
Well, it's going to be awful hard because he's dead.
Yeah, I know. That's why it would be super shocking. It's like, oh, we had to kill his other persona in order to bring him back.
Could have been adapted by the Coen brothers into a live action movie. I'm just saying.
That would be kind of interesting to see.
Because that concept and the way that movie plays out, like, you could argue this could have been a Coen brothers like adaptation. Like, you could tweak it a little bit, and this could be a perfect Coen brothers vehicle. But yeah. Anyway,
But so that
Wicked
book,
City.
that book, yeah. So that, but the Perfect Blue book doesn't have any of that. So Madhouse is clearly perfectly fine with changing the licenses that they buy. So if our oh god,
And in
if
turn, the
the
American
director
director, and in turn, the American directors buy up the rights so they can steal its imagery.
I Wicked City would make for now. You mentioned that there's a live action, but you said 92, and not the great. I'm not a big fan of CGI, but I think that you could make a very interesting Wicked City remake in nowadays in live action. You take the stuff with the blackguard, you take the oh, we have to have a baby together to make this pact stuff because that's fucking Hollywood, perfect for Hollywood. But you drop out the kink stuff and instead you focus on the weird body horror aspects. And you could have like an Alita version of like a Cronenberg a Cronenbergian anime adaptation.
Hell, tap Brandon to make an adaptation of it.
What is he? Oh, yes. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Took me a
Possessor and
second there.
Antiviral.
Have you seen Possessor yet?
I have not. I also need to check out Antiviral, but I'm like looking at his work. I'm like, oh, he's starting where David started. All right, man, I'm in.
Antiviral is one of my favorite movies, and I'm trying to convince a certain company to let me do a monograph on it.
I mean, I'll support you as soon as I see it. I've got to hunt it down. I'm trying to figure out if I can convince my local library to purchase a copy of it because I convinced my local library to buy a copy of Meet the Feebles. They immediately pasted it as they labeled it in the children's and family section. Like, no.
Do not. Oh my god. Did anyone?
I literally pulled it off the shelf and took it to them. Like, no. You guys did not watch this.
Yeah, no. Once, like 5 seconds into it, you're like, oh shit.
It's like about 3 minutes before you realize, like, oh no.
That I've been doing an interview for Scriptophobic with the guy who did Puppets Who Kill, and we talk a little bit about Meet the Feebles in that interview that's coming up soon.
Come on, Peach, make those 4K remasters already, God damn it. I want an authentic copy.
So what is there to like about Wicked City? You seem to be the more negative compared to me. So
I don't hate it. It's more like this is an 80s OVA. There is a lot of body horror. There is a lot of riffs on previous existing IPs, which I'm a history nerd, so that's how I approach most of my film critiques and watching. I look at it, how does this pay homage or reference history? And looking at this, there's a lot of Blade Runner in this. There's a little bit of Cronenberg in there. There's just some very interesting ideas they're playing with. And hell, I was going to mention, when you talk about the limited series idea, it sort of reminds me of that Carnival Row thing they just dropped on Amazon last year.
Never heard of this one.
Oh yeah, it's a fantasy show starring Orlando Bloom and Cara Delevingne as like the underworld of fairies in like 19th century London, I think.
Doesn't sound like my jam.
Yeah, it looked okay. I'm like, all right, I could see sort of like if you were gonna if you're going to proffer like the idea of a Wicked City like reboot remake adaptation, you could kind of go that route where it's like the two separate worlds and how they're slowly interconnecting after years of peace and truce. That trope that every fantasy movie used. There is a secret world, but soon the treaty will dissolve and hell will descend. And having just watched The Old Guard, I'm not so big on this Blackguard thing. So, yeah, it's just very, I don't know. I've been pampered by the likes of Satoshi Kon and the later Ninja Scroll, where I see Kawajiri finally like this is like a test run for later works. So I see it like as a historical stepping stone rather than an actual good product. This seems like a first draft idea of what Kawajiri would make their like aesthetic and like ideas for later on. Like we mentioned how the Stone Monster appears again in Ninja Scroll, how The rape also appears in Ninja Scroll. However, it's toned down? Question mark?
It's if it's not toned down, it's at least shortened in length.
Yeah, it's not 40% of the whole product like it is in Wicked City.
I wouldn't say that the rape is 40%, but I would say that sex is 40%.
Yeah.
There's a lot of consensual sex that takes a turn, which is like a nightmare come true. That first scene, to harken ahead to some shit that they never saw coming, reminds me of Grim Prairie Tales and like the weird vacuum vagina from that. And it's just
add that to my list.
I once did a podcast with Chris Vanderkay for his show where he told me, "Hey, pick any topic," and I've said, "Okay, new sex organs in film." So this is kind of up my alley in that way.
Does the ovipositor and the brood count?
Yes, I'm pretty sure I referenced the brood because the whole point of picking that was I wanted to talk about Cronenberg movies and a couple select others.
Fun fact: the brood, my least favorite Cronenberg.
Oh, I love the brood.
I don't know.
The oppressive atmosphere of the Canadian winter just gets me.
Well, because you're a native. I wanted more Oliver Reed. I'm like, there's not enough Oliver Reed in this movie.
I want more Oliver Reed in everything.
God damn it! Bring him back to life. Clone him.
Oh God, yes. Have you ever seen The Party's Over? A British film from the 1960s where Oliver Reed played. It's about basically kind of like the death of beatnik idealism, and Oliver Reed plays like the leader of the group of beatniks, and he's just a brute, and he is doing it's everything you love about Oliver Reed. Like, you take all those aspects of him and you shove them together and just make that the character.
Well, if you want like the ultimate Oliver Reed movie, you gotta hunt down Revolver.
I have not seen that one.
Oh, dude, Revolver. Oliver Reed has, like, you've seen The Third Man, right?
I have not. That's a blank on me.
Fuck. Okay. So The Third Man is notorious for having like the ultimate character introduction scene of Orson Welles' character, where he like is introduced by like hiding in a doorway, and then a cat nuzzles up to him, and then finally
I have seen that that scene.
Yeah. Oliver Reed has like an introduction that is almost surpasses that entrance scene, where he just walks in, a girl in yellow stockings balancing on his shoes as they proceed to make out and start to make love as they slowly move toward a bed. It's epic. It just starts on the shoes focused, and then it slowly pans up to yes, all of Oliver Reed. Yes, and it's super buff porn stash Oliver Reed too. So it's like yes, this is my thing. I love it. Yeah, Oliver Reed.
Now we're talking about Oliver Reed rather than Wicked City, which is kind of a sign.
It's not a bad movie. It's just
it's very surface, and there's not a whole lot to it.
Yeah, there are aspects that it feels like they should have explored more, like that hotelier they meet up with when they sign into the hotel. Like, oh yeah, he's also a badass, but he's given like a 20 frame cutaway.
He was a bigger character in the book. You know he was.
Yeah,
he had to have been.
Yeah, this isn't like Twilight of the Dark Master, where it feels like the bones are missing from this product. It's more like, okay, there's like a couple of fingers missing from this glove.
Speaking of fingers, though, that brings me to one point I do want to highlight again, which is I want to talk about the character design. We've talked a little bit. We said the goopy woman, the spider woman. The characters in this, now, even the guy who is armored up in that, he goes out like a punk, but he's very interesting, and he's the proto Ninja Scroll guy, which makes sense because Kawajiri did character design for this. He did character design on Demon City Shinjuku. He did character design on Cyber City, and he did characters design, of course, on Ninja Scroll. Mm-hmm. And so that sort of horror, like even in Ninja Scroll, every character in that is very clearly delineated. Like it's one of those ones, it's almost like a sort of like a blood sport type film where it's like you have your set people that our guy has to go and fight his way through. So they each need to be memorable in their own way. And so you have the goopy woman who shows up for a single scene, and yet she's interested enough that we've given her her own nickname and talked about her at several points. Like, no matter if you take away all the other stuff and only look at the character design, like, this is incredibly fascinating and it has a lot of range. But then once you start to go through his other films, we see elements repeated, because in Ninja Scroll, obviously we talked about the stone guy, we've talked about the short guy, but another one we have a spider girl in this. In Ninja Scroll, we have the snake girl who literally a snake comes out of her vagina to poison somebody. In this,
yes, the lady Terminator, as we call it.
Oh my god! Okay, fucking sidebar. Lady Terminator, wonderful. Fucking, what was the other one? Oh my god. What's the one with the hanging guts that he also did? The same director that it's got the Penungan from Thai horror in that. And then there's Deadly Seductress, I think it is. If you've seen Lady Terminator and you like that guy's batshit craziness, Deadly Seductress or whatever.
Mystics in Bali?
Mystics in Bali is the one with the Penungan, yes.
Yeah, it's on YouTube for free. It's so many of these weird things are uploaded full on YouTube, man. It's freaking weird.
That one is great, but absolutely, what the hell is the guy's name that did that one?
Jalil?
Yeah, he did, is it called? Yeah, Dangerous Seductress. Okay. This is not a Japanese movie, but if you like bad movies and you want to laugh and make fun of a movie, Dangerous Seductress is the most fun I've ever had riffing a movie.
Yeah, we are in the second renaissance. You could say we are in the second renaissance of Indonesian cinema, because first in the 80s we had all this weird shit like Mystics and Lady Terminator, and now this past decade we had the Indonesian action boom. So it's like, oh hell yeah!
We also have had a second horror boom from Indonesia alongside the action boom, because there's a lot on both. Well, there's a fair bit on Shudder, and there seems to be a lot on Netflix.
Oh yeah, but like the advent of streaming has allowed a lot of stuff to make its way over here. Like I still need to catch up with something called Inhuman Kiss, which I believe is it's either Thai or Korean like monster romance movie.
I didn't know it was monster romance. I can picture the cover poster in my head. But
it's Thai. Yeah, it's a Thai movie.
There is a lot of good Thai flicks coming out lately.
But yeah, there are several interesting monsters and ideas in this movie. And then you've got Maki's finger. Yeah, her weapon of choice is she has the who's the girl from X2?
It's like X23 or something. It's like, what, that one? No,
yeah,
not X2.
Frickin', what the hell's her name? Kelly Hu, Deathstrike. Who has like the adamantium fingernails. Like, oh, so we got Lady Deathstrike in here. Just cool.
Every time she attacked, I thought she was doing a whipping motion, so it kind of reminded me of that girl from The Night Comes For Us that just used the razor wire weapon.
Yeah, oh man, Night Comes For Us is so damn good.
Yeah, I mean, well, you took the guy who the director trained on The Raid, like, whoo.
And he did Headshot, which I also just caught up with.
I'm behind on Headshot. I watched half of it, got distracted by a thing because ADHD, and never made it back.
Headshot's worth a watch, but Night Comes For Us is like a step up from it, undoubtedly. But
White Boy Bobby is one of the most enjoyable characters.
White Boy Bobby. Oh yeah, we got to talk about the Playboy Palace that Merritt finds himself. Myert, the hell's his name? The little gremlin man.
The imp bastard.
Yeah, his name is Giuseppe Myart, a 200-year-old mystic who makes his way to the Playboy
human?
Palace.
He's 200 years old, but he's human. I thought they were like protecting him because like he has to sign the deal for that, but he has to sign the deal for the human side apparently. How the fuck are you 200 years old and human? I guess like mysticism.
I just like the idea that where he went was the Playboy Palace, and I keep pronouncing it like that one shaman in Temple of Doom. You will go to Playboy Palace and bring back the children. You will go to Playboy Palace and get laid much. I don't know, man. Like the stuff off to the side is more fascinating than the plot itself, because the plot itself is like, yes, eugenics. We must create the perfect hybrid of demons and man. It's like, so it's Blade Runner 2049. Okay.
Or it's Stalin's ape chimp program.
Or hell, that happened in Tomb of Dracula. Yeah, Dracula and his wife who made the perfect baby. The baby who died, but then came back and became Angel Man, and then it's like, what the hell was that all about?
Oh my god, I forgot about that part.
Oh man, I want a lobby to come back to talk about the Dracula movie, man, because that's gonna be a hell of a talk.
Oh, it really is. But one of the moments that happens in the Playboy Mansion is that she's like massaging his back and it's like, roll over, and he rolls over and she's just like, oh, that's the biggest cock I've ever seen. How does this guy that small have a dong that big? And it's like, this is necessary? Why?
Well, yeah, you see, old men need some love too. It's like, I guess as long as he paid up front, and
you know what? And as long as they keep putting objects in the way,
yeah.
But
and
there is a really funny moment in that though, where he's just like I'm gonna suck your tit and get some milk, and she's like, well, I'm not. There's not gonna be any milk. And he's like, but something came out, and she goes, well, it's not milk because I'm not pregnant. And it's like, this is our that was our sly call ahead to the fact that she's a goopy woman. But that was how they decided to hint that there's something wrong with this. Where it's like, no, there's something wrong with this because she's fucking Dobby from Harry Potter.
Yeah, she's that one kid from the new Batman Adventures who escaped from Clayface, but she was like a part of him, but escaped and grew up apparently and became like a soap woman.
Well, there's even a really great shot, like when our heroes, I say with a question mark because I don't really want to call them that, even though the movie does, but our heroes come to save they come to save Dobby, the imp, and he's like fused into her, and like that's really cool. But immediately, like the fingernail girl's just like, I got my fingernails to your neck, so you can't do anything. It's like, she's a goopy woman. Can't she just like goop out of there? But no, our fucking macho nothing main character just grabs the dude, struggles real hard to pull him out, pulls him out, and then fingernail girl just stabs her through the throat. It's like, it would have been really cool if she like went like, you have goopy woman like there, and she's like, fingers to the throat, acting like she's weak, she's vulnerable. Then suddenly she goes to like, she's already infected. What the heroes and the audience don't know, because we don't know any of the rules to this fucking city or to this fucking world. I mean, she has infected the imp with a parasite, which is what becomes the rape worm later. TM. And so if she's already infected him, it would have been really cool. Like, that's why she could have let him go. And then you go to stab her, and her neck just like goops out of the way, and you could have a really cool goopy fight. Like, there was potential there that just disappears.
Yeah, there is such promise in like this idea of like, all right, we're gonna make a neon and noir like horror story in this like weird city with demons and shit. Like, all right, and I still need to see Demon City Shinjuku, so I don't know how well, if at all, they followed up on it.
I will be watching that soon, because I remember, like, I watched that around the same time I watched this, and I loved these. And just as I was sitting down to watch Wicked City, I was just like, was it this one or Demon City Shinjuku with all the rape? I hope the answer was not both.
Yeah, well, knowing how Ninja Scroll turns out, and this is the in-between movie, it's like, maybe they slowly depleted over time? It's like, one would hope. But,
it's one of, like, you could take this, it's only 80 minutes, so you could take this, cut out that gang rape shot, just be like, you don't need to see that, like, the weird, like, they kind of like shine a light in the sky that becomes like a video that plays on the ground to call our main guy back because she's been captured, and that's why she's being gang raped. And you could
replace it with the robot from Ninja Terminator. Traitor, traitor.
No.
You must return.
No. Do that shot from Lady Terminator where it's just her walking down the hallway.
Yeah, that endless hallway she's walking down, and the helicopter that keeps blowing up.
But like, if you could just just take the guy's face, take the enemy's face, put it in that spot, because you could basically kind of just mat it in. It wouldn't be that hard. Then when you get there with her, like, don't show her yet. Show the fight scene that happens, and then he can go over and free her, and she would be naked, and we would be like, oh, we get it, without having to really get it.
We have to eyes wide shut some CGI shadows in there to keep all the weirdness away.
Did they actually do that in Eyes Wide Shut?
I'm pretty sure, yeah, there's an R-rated cut of Eyes Wide Shut where I believe they CGI'd on some underwear onto certain nude bodies, and also like CGI'd bodies in the way, so like some of the more obstinate nudity was hidden.
So they're doing the flower pot thing, essentially.
Yes, the flower pot gag, but with CGI mannequins? I don't know.
Just did that to a Kubrick... Wow. To Kubrick's last film.
Kubrick. My favorite Kubrick film, although I've yet to see Barry Lyndon and The Killing, but I love
both of those a lot. Oh, you will really like The Killing. You will love that film.
I'm a huge fan of noir and crime, so I'm looking forward to it. But just imagine
Jim Thompson wrote that. Sorry.
Yeah, just imagine all the stuff that could have been with Wicked City. It's like, all right, there are seedlings in here. They're probably in your mailbox right now.
Here's another aside, because this is the aside episode. But with the seedlings and that, I saw the pictures of those seedlings, and I had just ordered and received my seedlings that I got that looked kind of like those that came from China. So my first thought was, did I do this? Like, I was like, did I put in like the wrong address or something?
You activated the passcode by like ordering this random item, and that like sent out the plans to all the nations, all the world gets it.
That is some serious though, like body snatcher shit.
Yeah,
where it's just like random seeds showing up. Like, ooh, I seen how this ends, running down the freeway, and that looking like I just forgot Martin's last name there, and running down the freeway screaming like Martin Lawrence. Yeah,
or like Donald Sutherland's reading the news and immediately starts locking and barring the doors and gets out like a shotgun, like, oh hell no, not again. Veronica Cartwright's like somewhere getting renting a flamethrower from the prop shop, like, yep, need this again.
It turns out it's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood Part 2.
Yeah, which by the way, a movie I just caught up with. Again, asides galore on this episode, but something I can't believe a movie released by a big budget studio got away with. I just caught up with The Witches of Eastwick. And
I have not seen it, but I do know that isn't that the one that has like the phallic nose? No. That's
Nothing But Trouble.
Nothing but Trouble. Yes.
No, Witches of Eastwick is George Miller's like riff on like feminism. But there is a scene about like 2/3 the way through involving cherry pits that is one of the honestly most fucked up things I've seen in a budgeted studio release. Like, how the hell did they get away with this? It's like some Cronenbergian like body horror shit with cherry pits. I'm like, whoa, that's screwed up. So
nobody has convinced me to watch this movie until now.
Yeah, dude. Just for that scene alone, it's like, oh my god. But the rest of the movies, it's pretty damn fun. It's Jack Nicholson's playing the devil. He's like, has this epic speech in a church about women, am I right?
Is there a scene where he's on the front of a car?
Yes, he does at one point get hit by a car. Think. But yeah, where he's getting voodoo dolled by them and getting tossed around by like the giant off-screen giant fans and stuff.
I have seen a little bit of that on TV like late at night one time.
But yeah, dude, you need to catch up with the first 2/3 because, oh man, that scene is something. But yeah, there's some weird body horror shit going on in Witches of Eastwick, which there's also some body horror in this. It's like, oh god, make up your mind. What do you want to be, Wicked City? Do you want to be a noir? Do you want to be a body horror movie? Do you want to be about angels and demons? Do you want to be Midnight Goku 2 version 0.6? I like
I like how you keep calling it Midnight Goku when it's Goku Midnight Eye.
Well, because Midnight Goku, I was the Japanese. They switch around the words in Japanese.
Okay. But I wanted to say, though, like, the thing with Wicked City, you had mentioned a while back that there's great seeds in this. And yeah, there really are. And I think that one of the interesting things, now it is getting a re-release this year, or a release on Blu-ray, not re-release. I don't think it had a Blu-ray previously.
Yeah,
but
who is releasing it? I'm trying.
While you look that up, what I was thinking was that it can't be that big of a film at this point, you know? Like, it's kind of, its heyday has come and gone. People don't remember it as fondly as Ninja Scroll for obvious reasons. But
Arrow Video is putting out some of the weirdest stuff, as is Vinegar Syndrome. So
they are great, but beyond them, they're buying the license to put it out. I think it's time that somebody bought the license to, like, just bought the book rights again and redid this. Like, take out some of the kinky stuff, up more, give us more world building, because this fails to do that. It doesn't have enough time. Give us some real world building. Give us the weird monsters. Bring back the goopy lady. I don't even care. But, like, there is such potential.
Yeah, it's a frustrating film. It's why I'm just come off more frustrated, because it's like, yeah, this is just another 80s OVA that's got the weird shit in there for the kinky sons of bitches who were apparently animating this thing. And yeah, I'm not even mad at it. It's more like, yeah, I've seen this before, unfortunately. I saw Midnight Eye, Goku Midnight Eye, both of them. It's like, yeah, this is a bit better because it focuses more on the action rather than the rape. Because
it does have the wrong angle.
Look, one of my favorite movies of the decade is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And there is some serious sexual assault in that movie. But it's also got the angle that it's focusing on the women getting retribution, which is also a touchy subject in terms of third wave feminism. But it's like, look, man, I love pulp. I like watching women get horrifically mangled, but then they come back like, I'm going to take these people apart with a shotgun. It's like, yeah, do it, girl. And Maki is not allowed to do that. She does not get retribution, really. She is not able to take back anything except at the very end against,
that's the thing, at the end they try
random enemy number 38, and it's like,
no, that's not random enemy number 38. That's the big guy. That was the big leader on that. Because he died, and then he was the guy that the stone came down on him. They shoot him, but he had the regeneration ability, so he had regenerated and came back. So that is supposed to be our big leader. But the problem is that in order for her to get her revenge, she has to have slept with the guy to get pregnant, and so it's not coming from her. It's coming from the fact that she was with a human man. So ultimately,
now it's Legend of the Overfiend.
Yes, exactly. And it's just completely it's not giving her what she deserves. And it ends on a fucking cock tease where they're like, yeah, so
my baby's gonna be fucking great.
Yeah, well, even before that, it's just like, okay, well, I don't love you. Enjoy having my baby. And then I went back to work, and it's going to be a few years till my baby's ready to save the world, so I guess I'm going to keep being a blackguard. And, like, obviously, like, that's where the novel ends, and you go to the next novel, because you're like, oh shit, what is the case they're going to face this day? What is this fucking Philip Marlowe wannabe going to do? But they didn't follow it up.
Yeah, it's, again, I don't hate this movie. It's more like, man, there's so much that could work about it, and instead it's fat material with a pretty gloss over it.
I'm disappointed in this movie the same way my mother will be when she listens to this podcast.
Aw, hey, maybe your mom's secretly into some kinky shit. Who knows? You never can tell.
I ain't touching that one with a koala's dick.
Yeah. That's an entirely different can of worms on a different continent.
that was Robin Williams stand-up reference.
R.I.P. my lord.
Yeah. So, but jokes aside, like I like this film, but I like it despite itself almost. Like I it would be fun. Okay. It would almost be fun to be the type of movie to put on like in the background of a party and watch the parts you like, except then everybody at the party would be like, "What the fuck is that?" So you can't even do that. There needs to be just just a few tweaks. It's disappointing, and because there's so many seeds in it that could have bloomed, and instead all the seedlings in your pot just wilted.
Then again, this movie was probably great AMV fodder. Like they probably clipped the hell out of certain bits of this and made like some swell AMVs out of this on YouTube back in the day. So,
my god! I mean, I used to do that too. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of AMV fodder that rips from this Angel Cop, Demon City Shinjuku,
love me some
the
Angel
R-rated
Cop.
version of Overfiend, and
I also love me some Mad Bull 34.
Another one I've yet to catch up on, but I know of its reputation.
Its reputation is earned.
Yes, I like a lot of shit like that. Like The Ultimate Teacher is one of my favorite OVAs, and that's a fucking stupid OVA, but it's glorious. Speaking of off-brand Spider-Man who descends from webs out of his ass, that's in The Ultimate Teacher.
It's really crazy how everything is tying together.
Again, you could dive into the Japanese OVA boom and just look at all this weird shit that came out. And even then, technically, this is an OVA, but it did get released to cinemas. So it's that weird thing where it was produced for video, but it still made it to the giant silver screen. So it's technically a film.
I was watching reading a bunch of the reviews of it too, and just like no love. And the thing with the OVA boom is what's going to happen, and it's going to happen as I age here with Wicked City, is I will start to forget some of the more egregious parts, and I'll fondly remember the spider vagina and the goopy woman, and I'll forget about the rape worm. I'll vaguely remember that there was something I didn't like about that film. What was it? But then I'll also remember like him pulling out the gun and just like his cockiness of shooting people's heads off, and I'll remember like there's a part where our two characters, they die and are resurrected. Like the Spider Woman ties them up, eviscerates them, and then there's a line like they wake up in a church to have sex, and the Dobie walks in and they're like, did you resurrect us? He's like, yeah, of course.
I wanted to see you bone.
He really did. That's because, well, I mean, that's what he's been trying. He's got the porno. He goes off to get laid. He tries to convince Maki to sleep with him. So like that was his whole game. Was just like,
yeah, the dirty old man trope that never goes away, unfortunately.
It does not work for me. I mean, it goes as far into like you see it in like Naruto and shit, and it's just frustrating.
Yeah,
it's like I don't like that.
Yeah,
I don't like it at all.
Yeah, all the rape is going to turn away a lot of people because, especially in this age,
rightfully so.
I'm gonna sound like an asshole, but rape is out of fashion nowadays. So,
you know what? Okay, that sounds.
I'm just saying, back in the day, you could get away with a lot. Nowadays, it's like,
It's not even that you could get away with it, though. That is true, but it's the way that it was thought about, and it wasn't thought about as rape. It was thought about as a way to get nudity into the movie. And it's like, oh, how do we get nudity into this? Okay, we have
Skinemax
a stripper.
Never had a problem with that.
Well, exactly. Like it didn't. It's really these fucking like it's in exploitation films. It was in the OVAs at the time. It's in a certain like they're trying to sell it to a certain demographic, which is not a demographic that people really want to be courting anymore, and rightfully so.
Yeah, and in the internet age, everything will be magnified. So if this were released today, this would get like eviscerated in previews and then just buried.
I mean, look Game of Thrones came under assault so many fucking times, and like there are certain scenes in that which I will defend on a narrative level, not on a we have to see this level, but on a narrative level, because it's like, okay, this had to happen in order for this to go. I get that, But then you just look at like if you're going to talk about sexual assault and rape in film in any real way, if your film is going to feature that, it needs to not just be like, well, look at this. It needs to be like, okay, what does this do? What are the effects of this? How are we treating? Are we sexualizing the victim of this, or are we showing compassion and trying to talk about? You have to be very, very careful, because like we need, as a culture, we need to talk more about sexual assault. We need to talk more about rape. We have to we have to make it clear to apparently people who don't fucking get it still somehow, that this shit isn't okay. And of course, there's certain governments which have very much kind of given the opposite message to the people through their inaction. And so film is one of the bastions where it is starting to push away in such a large way, where the only time you really start to get it is in films that are trying to start a dialogue. And I think that is a positive change, but it only happened because, as you said, we're in the internet age where everything is amplified. If it wasn't for these voices that were speaking loudly and making it fucking clear, it wouldn't have got here, I don't think.
Yeah, and dialing back to what I said earlier, I do not mean to say that I miss the days when rape was in fashion. I mean, like, I watch a lot of like older Hollywood generation, and there is a lot of stuff like the way they would portray, like, oh, this man is pursuing this woman, and he forces a kiss on her. Like, dude, that's not okay
fucking
nowadays.
Star Wars, like Han Solo's a fucking creep.
Dude, not even that. Blade Runner.
Oh, Blade Runner.
Blade Runner is one of the worst. It's like, whoa, that is not. It's a great romance. That is not a romance. That is a sexual assault.
Yes, 100%. And it's at least the dialogue has opened, and I think that is why things like Wicked City are going to fade away, and that's also why I think that the rights are going to get super cheap eventually. And listen, I'm not saying let's make Wicked City a better movie, but let's fucking make Wicked City a better movie.
Yeah, let's toy with these ideas again. Let's ditch most of the weird skeevy crap that's really unnecessary and make something that's more like, I don't know, make an off-brand cyberpunk movie out of this. Like, do something with it and play with like the demons and all that stuff.
And,
like,
and you know,
add four more colors to the palette, please.
Oh, add 4 more colors, but I am also okay with I'm okay with it having a kinky direction to it, but it has to be done by people who understand that, like there are filmmakers out there who understand how to play with sexual ideas without basically eroticizing victims.
Yeah. You got to stop with this creepy shit and just go with, all right, we need to address like agency. We need to address who has the power here and what makes this power dynamic interesting. Like, perhaps play with the basic instinct idea. Play with I don't know. I think Jennifer Kent is a really great filmmaker who really understands feminine identity and sexuality, especially, and just how to operate with it.
I would back that up. Yes.
Yeah, and just first of all, bring more women into the crew, have bigger dialogues. I know the bigger corporations are making big showcase, like, see, we have more women of color. We have this Indonesian man. We're expanding up. Like, we'll have them in there and have them have a say. Don't just bring them out as posters. Have them actually involved and interacting. And with this would make a great opportunity for that. Bring in a woman, bring in some Japanese female talent to talk on the writer's room and talk about how the story should progress and make it interesting. That's not just fetish fuel, which unfortunately this movie just devolves into at some point, and I don't think it recovers.
I don't think it recovers. Like, I think that if you notice, the parts that I talk about the most in this is basically up to the goopy woman. Like, because once we go past the goopy woman, that's when we get into that's when the next scene is a rape worm, and then it's a gang rape. And then the scene after that is more gang rape. Then it is, we gaslit this woman to have sex with this guy. Like, the first bit of this, like maybe half hour, where it's like, okay, we get introduced to this character. He's picking up a woman, and it's consensual. And then it's like, oh shit, he's been tricked. And it's this weird demon thing, which is why did they... It implies they needed his semen, but why? I don't know.
Yeah, because she dies, and that never comes really back. So it's like, that happened.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, she's in it for a bit before she dies, but like that part never comes back. Where it's like, oh, does she have like is she doing like some sex magic or
did she
having
make an
like
egg
a
sac
power?
somewhere, or is this gonna come back to haunt him? Like he's gonna have little demon spider babies come and attack him? Like what's going on with this?
Like maybe, and I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt on this one. Maybe that is something that's set up in the book and pays off in a later book.
There are a lot of actions in this movie and very little consequences.
Yes, which is
it's a lot of things happening, and only like the ending really matters. It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah, and I've read a few. I've consulted on a few scripts like that where you just kind of like, listen, like if this is the only part that matters, that's the only part we need. All this other stuff you could do better. And this movie, like we get introduced to him. That's a pretty fun scene. We get him being like made fun of at his work, and that's, at this point we're still in a typical sort of fun 80s movie.
Yeah, he wins a bet in the first scene.
Yeah, then he goes into like he fights at the airfield. That's a great fight.
Yeah, it's good.
And so like once we get introduced though there, like when we get introduced to the gremlin guy, like his introduction is really clever where he's just like, yeah, I thought this would happen. I took an earlier flight.
There's like simultaneously too much world building, but all the world building is really shallow and doesn't explain much.
That is actually a very good way of putting it, because there is a lot happening, but also nothing happening.
There's fluff exposition. It's there to hand wave it away, but it's like, but that doesn't really explain anything. Why did these two guys randomly attack him if there's still a peace treaty going on? They're radicals? Okay, what does the radical believe in? I don't know. They're just against it. Like,
they just don't want peace. That's all.
They're like, just rabble rousers. This was made by a right-wing Japanese animation company. Oh, okay.
Once you get past the goopy woman, it's like downhill. If you're gonna watch this, watch the first half hour. Watch up until they beat the goopy woman, and then just know that they're gonna win in the end.
Yeah, if you want to know the ending, I don't know, watch Psychic Wars, and you basically get the ending of this. So.
Well, watch the first half hour of this, and then watch Blade Runner, and just go, oh, I see what they could do.
Hell, let's watch Blade Runner 2049. It's the best. It's just the best. Roger Deakins for life.
It is a great film. So I think as we bring this podcast to a close, I think our thoughts on this are, it could be better, but watch Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah, it could have been better. Could have used more lube.
Fuck.
This was a very rocky transmission in this car.
It really, I want to like it more. There's a lot about it I do love, and most of it is the character design. Like
get modern here's a stupid idea. Bring modern Dario Argento to make a new Wicked City.
Have you seen
Dracula 3D Dario Argento?
That's like cry myself to sleep, Dario Argento. Like, what happened to you, sir?
Giant CG praying mantis.
Somebody let Dario off his meds for a bit, and he made a movie.
Yeah, this movie is so full of kink that it's like the entire animated Disney canon worth of kink. Which, you ever thought about how kinky a lot of Disney movies are?
There is a lot of kink in Disney.
There's a lot of TF in Disney. It's like, oh wow, there is some stuff going on at that studio.
And so I think with that, Brett, where can people find you online if you mentioned a few podcasts and such?
Yeah, I occasionally update a blog called Brettro Culture. It is bretroculture.blogspot.com. I can link you, and you can link that in the show notes.
It'll be in the show notes, and we'll throw a link on Scriptophobic's homepage there.
I'm also on Brett the Wiz, Bachelor of Science on Letterboxd. That's where I'm going to be most active. I watch a lot of stuff, occasionally write thoughts on stuff, make lists, preparing for Hooptober, which should be pre-gaming in a couple of weeks, according to El Cinemonster, my hero.
I got inspired by him to do the History of Horror, the 52 movie, like the 1 a week horror challenge on Letterboxd.
Yeah, he's a good dude, and he's an inspiration to all of us letterboxed novitiates. Yeah, letterbox is where I'll be found, and I supposedly am. I just co-starred on Talk Without Rhythm. We talked about Freaked by Alex Winter and Holy Motors
nice.
by Leos Carax.
Is it a hammer that's the best joke in that?
Yeah, I like the towels and the exploding airplane. Actually, I'm lying. The Milkman. The Milkman is the best gag.
The Milkman is great. I love whether it's like a wrench or whatever, where it's just
it's the one. Oh man, that's tough, bro.
And then just like that to me is one of the best. This real quick on Freak though, the fact that he had to have his mouth held open every time every time he's in that makeup, and so it's just his real fucking drool going across him. Like that is a physical performance.
I mean, you could also talk about how Keanu was glued inside of a carpet for
and also not credited.
Well, that's how they kept the budget down. Which listen to the podcast we talk about. We have a theory about whether or not he was compensated for that or not. But yeah, I also was on there last year to talk about After Hours and Blue Velvet. So check that out. Also on Talk Without Rhythm. And
I gotta hear these.
Yeah, Talk Without Rhythm in general is a great podcast. El Goro's a metal-headed genre hound, and he's a good dude. And my Brettro culture. And soon I'm going to appear on the Film Stage Show's Intermission podcast to talk about a film of a Guy Maddin persuasion. So, Guy Madden if you're British. And yeah, so that's on the docket. And other than that, I'm just sitting at home staring at this pile of library DVDs and various Blu-rays I've purchased and have yet to watch, and looking at you, Tex Avery Screwball Collection #1. And yeah, and I'm also prepping my Coffin Joe watching for later this year. So yeah, it's gotta be something.
Coffin Joe plays a very big role in one of the books of on film I'm writing.
Good. I'm to see you got some more of these monographs and things, man. And yeah, again, it was a pleasure coming on here, even if the movie could have been better.
Yeah, I was really hoping for more from this based on my memory, but what we definitely 100% got out of this is that you are going to have to come back for the Dracula Frankenstein double feature.
Yes.
That has to happen.
Somewhere in Boston, Massachusetts, a vampire stalks the streets searching for hamburgers.
And with that, we will catch you all next week.
Later.